A lonely single dad opened his door for one night. What he discovered changed everything. The rain arrived like a confession he had been avoiding, heavy and relentless, turning the quiet street into a river of reflections. The knock on the door cut through the night and through him, because lonely nights teach you to recognize the sound of change before it happens. He stood there with his hand on the handle, a single father with a house too quiet and a heart too tired, unaware that opening the door for one night would undo the careful walls he had built and rearrange the rest of his life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the small decisions that ripple into miracles, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Grandma Dearie. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. He had not planned to be a single dad. No one does. Life had handed him responsibility the way storms hand you rain, without asking if you were ready. His days were measured in lunches packed at dawn, bedtime stories read with a voice that pretended not to crack, and late nights where the house echoed with memories he could not afford to revisit. He worked hard, loved harder, and learned to live with the quiet ache of being everything to someone while feeling like nothing to himself. The world saw a capable man holding it together. Inside, he was a collection of small, unspoken fears stitched together by routine. The knock came again, softer this time, as if the night itself was uncertain. When he opened the door, the rain revealed a woman standing under its weight, soaked and trembling, her eyes carrying a mix of urgency and embarrassment that made him look away first. She was not dramatic, not desperate in the way movies portray, just exhausted and human. The porch light framed the moment like a still from a film, rain slicing the dark, warmth spilling from the doorway, and the decision hovering between them. He did not ask questions. He stepped aside because sometimes kindness happens before logic can interfere. Inside, the house felt different with another presence, as if the walls were listening. He offered a towel, then another, and watched her hands shake as she dried her hair. He noticed the way she glanced down the hallway where his child slept, how her shoulders softened at the sight of a small backpack by the door, how her breathing slowed as the storm raged on. He told himself it was just for the night, just a phone call, just a brief shelter from the rain. Yet the air held a tension that had nothing to do with the weather. As the hours passed, the rain refused to leave, and neither did the stories that surfaced without being spoken aloud. He sensed the weight she carried, the kind that presses on the chest and makes simple requests feel heavy. He shared the quiet of the house with her, the clock ticking like a heartbeat, the smell of clean laundry and coffee lingering from earlier. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen without having to explain himself. The loneliness he wore like a second skin loosened its grip. In the middle of the night, a soft sound drifted from the hallway, the unmistakable call of a child waking from a dream. Instinct took over. He moved with the calm efficiency of a parent who has done this 1,000 times, soothing fears, restoring peace, returning to the living room with a tired smile that carried pride and fatigue in equal measure. When he looked up, he saw something shift in her expression, a recognition of love in its most unglamorous, honest form. It was not admiration. It was understanding. Morning came quietly, the storm washed clean, the street shining like it had been forgiven. The woman stood by the door, dried and steadier, gratitude settling into her features. He felt the familiar urge to retreat, to close the door on vulnerability and return to his safe routines. But something had already changed. The night had reminded him that his life, though small and contained, was not closed. It had room, not for chaos but for connection. Days passed, then weeks. Life resumed its rhythm, but with a difference he could not ignore. He found himself listening more closely to the world, noticing the way people carried invisible storms. He volunteered at the school, helped a neighbor with groceries, answered calls he would have once let ring. Kindness had become less of an obligation and more of a language. And one afternoon, while walking home with his child, he saw her again, not as a figure in the rain, but as a person moving forward, still imperfect, still human. Their paths crossed gently after that, not rushed, not forced. There were shared coffees, careful conversations, long walks where silence did the heavy lifting. He learned about the night that had brought her to his door, about the courage it took to ask for help, about the shame that often shadows survival. She learned about the years he spent rebuilding after loss, about the fear of letting someone close when a child's heart was involved. Together, they learned patience. What he discovered was not a grand revelation or a dramatic transformation. It was simpler and braver than that. He discovered that opening his door had also opened him, that his loneliness was not a flaw but a sign of love stretched thin and waiting to be shared. He discovered that his child was watching, learning what kindness looks like in action. He discovered that one night could be a beginning without erasing the past. Near the end of the school year, as sunlight filled the house and laughter replaced the echo, he stood in the doorway again, not to let someone in from the rain, but to step out into a life that felt wider. He understood then that miracles are not loud. They knock softly, soaked and uncertain, and wait to see if you are willing to answer. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives in quiet ways, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Grandma Dearie. Your engagement keeps these stories alive and reaching the people who need them. Before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment below and tell us about a moment when a small act of kindness changed your life or someone else. Because sometimes, all it takes to change everything is opening the door for one night and choosing to believe that love still knows your address.